You see, many of the chosen ones walk through life with a quiet tension inside them, a subtle but persistent feeling that they're out of sync with the world. They sit in rooms full of people and feel invisible. They move through systems and roles that society offers, but none of it truly resonates. And so, they begin to wonder, what is wrong with me? Why can't I settle into the rhythm that everyone else seems to accept so easily? But the truth is this: nothing is wrong. This dissonance is not a defect. It is not a psychological malfunction. It is a signal, a spiritual one, a sign that your inner being is no longer willing to conform to the external programming that has governed your life until now. You are not resisting the world because you're lost. You're resisting because something deeper inside of you has begun to awaken. From the moment we are born, we are shaped by our cultures, our schools, our families. These structures, while necessary to function in a society, also become walls that confine us. They teach us how to obey, how to fit in, how to belong, but they do not teach us how to be asterisk. They do not guide us toward alignment with our true nature. So, when your soul starts to pull away from these walls, when you start feeling that internal restlessness, it is the first sign of truth rising to the surface. This feeling of not fitting in is, in reality, your inner compass starting to recalibrate. It no longer points towards societal approval or external validation. It begins to orient itself toward authenticity, toward alignment. And alignment requires friction. You cannot awaken without discomfort, just as you cannot strengthen the body without resistance. The friction you feel between who you are and what the world expects of you is not a problem to fix, but a process to understand. Now, many people will try to silence that friction. They'll numb it with distractions, bury it under obligations, or rationalize it away. But the chosen ones cannot. The tension becomes too loud, the inner calling too persistent. You start asking deeper questions. Who am I beyond the labels? What is the meaning of this life? Why do I feel pulled towards something I cannot even name? These questions are not signs of confusion. They are evidence of spiritual intelligence. You are no longer satisfied with surviving. You are searching for meaning. And in that search, you separate yourself from the unconscious current of the world. That separation can feel like loneliness, like alienation, but it is actually liberation. The paradox is this: you don't fit in because you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to awaken to remember and eventually to guide . So if you feel different, out of place, or disconnected, it's not because you're behind. It's because you're ahead. Let that truth settle in, because once you stop fearing your difference, you begin to discover your direction. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey where the external world begins to grow quieter, not because the world has changed, but because something inside you has. Friends may drift away. Conversations that once excited you start to feel hollow. The need to constantly explain yourself fades. And instead, you're left with something unfamiliar to most people: isolation. But this is not a punishment. It is not exile, it is preparation. You see, true solitude, is not emptiness. It is a sacred environment where the distractions of the external world are stripped away, so that the deeper parts of your being can emerge. In the absence of noise, clarity arises. In the absence of constant affirmation, self-respect begins to form. This is not just psychological, it is spiritual. The soul does not grow in crowds, it grows in stillness. Most people fear being alone because they haven't yet met themselves. They only know themselves in relation to others, how others see them, validate them, respond to them. But the chosen ones are called to break this dependency. They are called to step away, not forever, but for long enough that their identity is no longer constructed by reaction, but cultivated through reflection. This space of isolation becomes your training ground, like the monk who retreats to the mountain, or the warrior who trains in silence before the battle. You are being refined, not through comfort, but through confrontation with your doubts, your shadows, your illusions. It is in this space that you begin to build something the world cannot give you, inner mastery. And mastery does not come from running from discomfort. It comes from observing it without judgment, sitting with it long enough to understand its origin. In solitude, you begin to notice how many of your thoughts don't even belong to you, how many of your fears were inherited, how many of your dreams were borrowed. Slowly, the false layers begin to fall away. What remains is real, and what is real is not loud. It is not desperate for attention. It is calm, still, powerful in its presence even when no one else sees it. That is the essence of the chosen one's training, learning to trust what is unseen, what is silent, what is subtle. Because that is where the true power resides. Eventually, when you re-emerge, you no longer seek the approval you once craved. You move differently, not arrogantly, but with quiet certainty. You no longer need to belong to the world, because you have finally come home to yourself. So if you are in that season of solitude now, embrace it. Don't rush it. Don't try to escape it. This is your mountain. This is your sacred fire. And like all things forged in stillness, when you return, you will not just be changed. You will be ready. Only in stillness can the unseen become known. Only in solitude can the spirit truly speak. One of the most misunderstood aspects of being different, of being a chosen one, is sensitivity. We live in a world that often confuses sensitivity with weakness. We're taught to suppress emotion, to harden ourselves, to move quickly and speak louder just to be heard. But what if the very thing the world tells you to suppress is actually your greatest strength? When you're sensitive, you don't just hear words. You feel the intention behind them. You don't just walk into a room, you sense the energy within it. You're aware of subtle changes, micro expressions, emotional undercurrents that most people miss. This heightened perception can feel like a burden at times. You may ask, why do I feel so much? Why does everything affect me so deeply? But the deeper question is what is this sensitivity pointing me toward? The answer is awareness. Sensitivity is not fragility, it's precision. It is the inner instrument that allows you to navigate more than just the material world. It gives you access to the emotional, energetic, and even spiritual layers of life. This is a form of intelligence, a sacred intelligence, that the modern world often ignores. What makes you sensitive is also what makes you attuned to suffering, to truth, to beauty. You feel others' pain not because you're weak, but because you're connected. And connection is the birthplace of wisdom. It is easy to live in denial, easy to distract yourself from the depth of life. But you, as a chosen one, don't have that luxury. Your sensitivity won't allow it. It keeps pulling you back to what is real. And yes, this can be exhausting. It can feel overwhelming. But that is where discipline must meet depth. The key is not to dull your senses but to ground them. You train your mind like a sword, sharp but controlled. You train your emotions like water, deep but steady. Sensitivity without discipline can drown you, but sensitivity with mastery can lead you to the highest form of understanding. What others see as overthinking, you recognize as insight. What others avoid, you confront. Your ability to sense and feel deeply is not a curse. It's a calling to become aware, to become conscious, to become a guide for those who are still asleep to themselves. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by your sensitivity, remember, it's not the world that you must conform to. It's the world that needs what you've been given. You were never meant to numb yourself to survive. You were meant to feel in order to see and through seeing to awaken others. Let your sensitivity be your wisdom, not your wound. The moment you begin to walk a different path, you will feel it in your body. A quiet discomfort, a subtle distance between you and the world around you. You may still smile, still function, still fulfill your duties, but deep down you know something no longer fits. What once felt normal now feels foreign, and this is not by accident. This misalignment is a sign that something within you has shifted. You see, most people move through life following patterns laid down before them, patterns inherited from society, family, culture. These patterns are designed for survival, not for awakening. They offer stability, yes, but often at the cost of depth, truth, and individuality. So when the chosen one begins to awaken, the old structures start to crack. The world, once familiar, now feels distant. But this feeling of misalignment is not something to be feared. It is a compass pointing toward your true path. What many don't realize is that the path of truth is not crowded. It does not look like the paths others take. It does not promise ease, applause, or constant companionship. Instead, it asks for courage, because the more you come into alignment with your inner truth, the more you will feel out of place in systems that run on illusion. You may question yourself, you may wonder if you're falling behind or losing touch, but look closer. You're not disconnecting from reality, you're detaching from what is false in order to reconnect with what is real . This friction between your truth and the world's expectations is not failure, it is transformation, and transformation requires solitude, silence, and the willingness to walk alone. Not forever, but long enough to build the strength and clarity needed to walk with purpose. Many try to avoid this stage. They run back into the crowd, hoping the discomfort will fade, but the chosen ones know it never does. Once you've glimpsed truth, you can't unsee it. Once you've heard the call, pretending not to hear it only leads to inner conflict. So yes, you will feel misaligned at times, but that misalignment is not a problem, it is proof that you are evolving. That you are no longer content with imitation, that your path, though uncertain, is yours, and that is the beginning of real power. The path of alignment is not about escaping the world. It's about no longer betraying yourself in order to be accepted by it. That is the shift, and once you make it, you stop looking for belonging outside and start creating it within. Don't fear the distance between you and the world. Let it teach you how to walk your own path with clarity, with strength, and with peace. Because when you are aligned with your truth, even if the world doesn't understand you, you understand yourself, and that changes everything. Rejection is one of the most painful experiences a person can endure. Whether it comes from family, peers, institutions, or society at large, it leaves a wound that can feel personal and deeply unsettling. But what if I told you that for the chosen ones, this rejection is not punishment, it is redirection, a deliberate turning away from the world so that you are forced to turn inward, where your true power resides. The mistake many make is believing that rejection defines their worth, that if people walk away or if doors close, it must mean something is lacking in them. But the reality is often the opposite. You are not being cast out because you are less. Often you are being separated because you carry more awareness, more depth, more responsibility, and more potential than the current environment is willing or able to accommodate. The truth is, when your spirit begins to evolve, it becomes incompatible with lower frequencies. People who once resonated with you may now feel distant. Environments that once energized you begin to drain you. Conversations that used to excite you now seem shallow. This disconnection is not failure, it is refinement. You are being pulled away from what no longer aligns, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Spirit removes what you no longer need before you have the clarity or courage to let go yourself. This process can feel like loss, but it is really an unveiling. With every rejection, something false is stripped away, a role you were never meant to play, a mask you wore for too long, an attachment that limited your growth, and beneath it all, what remains is you raw, real, unfiltered. Rejection then becomes recognition, not by the world but by the spirit, a subtle but profound message. You are not meant to be accepted by the world as it is. You are meant to help change it. And to do that, you must first be willing to be set apart. Of course, this doesn't mean isolating yourself from humanity or becoming bitter toward the world. It means standing firm in your truth even when it is inconvenient, even when it costs you comfort, connection, or recognition. It means being faithful to your inner knowing, especially when the outer world disagrees. And when you do this, when you accept rejection as part of your refinement, you no longer fear it. You begin to see it not as a wall, but as a gate, not as abandonment, but as alignment. You are being positioned, not punished. So let them misunderstand you, let them walk away, let the doors close. What is meant for who you truly are cannot be taken, delayed, or denied. Every time the world says no, your spirit whispers now, walk forward, because the more the world rejects who you are not, the closer you come to discovering who you truly are. There is something quietly powerful about a person who walks into a space and doesn't need to speak to be felt. The chosen ones carry this energy not because they are louder than others, but because their presence carries weight. And the reason it carries weight is because it is rooted in truth, a truth that disrupts, a truth that reveals, a truth that quite often threatens the illusions people depend on. This is why, without saying a word, you may notice people shift around you. Some feel uneasy, some become defensive, others project hostility for no apparent reason. It's not always personal. It's energetic. When your inner life becomes still, focused, and aligned, it begins to radiate a frequency that destabilizes what is inauthentic in others. Not because you intend to, but because your very being acts as a mirror, and many are not yet ready to see themselves without distortion. In today's world, appearances are everything. People curate personas, chase approval, and wear masks so convincingly they forget there is a face underneath. When you enter that world with nothing to prove, when your peace is not borrowed from opinions, and your confidence is not built on comparison, you create a silent contradiction, a disruption in the matrix, so to speak. You don't conform, and therefore you expose. You don't perform, and therefore you reveal. And that is what makes your energy powerful, because it's clean. But this also means that the more aligned you become, the more invisible you may feel to the world that thrives on noise. The more refined your vibration, the more out of place you may seem in spaces built on ego, manipulation, and distraction. This too is part of the path. Not everyone will resonate with you. Not everyone can. That doesn't make you wrong. It makes you rare. So instead of shrinking to be more accepted, you must learn to hold your frequency with quiet discipline. There is no need to convince, no need to fight for validation. Your task is not to force awakening, but to embody it, to walk with clarity, not arrogance, to remain rooted in truth, not superiority. Your presence alone, your awareness, your depth, your calm, is already doing the work. And yes, it may be lonely at times, but solitude is the echo chamber of the spirit. It's where your vibration sharpens, where your inner silence becomes louder than the world's noise. And eventually, those who are meant to rise will feel it, not because you demanded their attention, but because your energy called something ancient in them to awaken. So protect your peace, refine your energy, let your life be the message. In a world addicted to illusion, the most radical act is to remain authentic. And if your presence threatens what is false, then let it. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to illuminate